Okay, there's microphone. Let me see, does that look? Yep, microphones. I think which microphone is it capturing? Realtek, USB audio. So maybe it'll pick up my voice. We'll just see. We've got a new computer and everything. So I think I Zoomed last year from this at the end of the semester. Can't remember. So Tuesday, we talked about client server networks. And we talked about Microsoft Server runs something called Active Directory. And they actually sprawl the name out even bigger in the later years. Active Directory, directory services. It's a little bit long, but that's what they call it. You know, basically what it is, it's a database, keeps track of your username, password, and all of the computers and stuff that have been approved to communicate with the domain. And to get it to work, well, we have to install Windows Server before we can do anything else. And the basic install of a Windows Server or a Windows 10 machine, it's basically been the same since Windows Vista came out. So when Vista was released, the installer has not changed hardly any throughout all the versions. So as we install this, if you've installed a Windows 10 or Windows 7 or something in the past, you'll notice it's really similar. So we all have this AA LAN 1 Goodman RO in our Hyper-V manager. Everybody see that? Let's go ahead and edit the settings on it. So right click on it and let's go to settings. I don't believe that we connected a hard disk, or not a hard disk, a installation media to it. Let me check yours. It'll just have AA in front of it, should be. Yeah, yours is there. Why do you create? Yeah.
I thought you meant like look up yours.
No, you won't see mine. You'll see yours. You created it. So find the one you created, and it should have the AA in front of it. So as we look, we're going to click on memory. We told it 4,096 meg. That's the amount of startup RAM that's given to the operating system as it boots up. And then it can dynamically change. It can actually get more or less. And I don't want an application or something to screw up and try to take all of the 64 gig in my actual system. And it's allowing quite a bit more than 64 gig. So that's a crazy number right there. I think that's a terabyte. I think it's trying to like use my entire hard drive too as RAM. I don't want it to have that chance. So I'm going to change the maximum to 4096. And this minimum here, I'm actually going to bring it down to 384. I'm using not rounded numbers. I'm using actual powers of 2. So 128 is, a power of 2. You've studied in Cisco, 32, 64, 128, stuff like that. So RAM sticks also come in those sizes. So I'm thinking of 128 meg RAM stick. If I had 3 of them in the computer, 128, 256, 384. So I'm putting the numbers that actually match what a physical computer could get, because the operating system is going to expect that. So I'm stopping these in 4096. If you've been in Cisco, that's 2 to the something or another. It's a power of 2. That's what 4 gigabytes is, not 4,000. I find that the systems just run faster if they've got a real memory limit sent to the operating system. Now, Windows is recent versions of Windows. They're designed to run in virtual machines, so it's probably not like it was in the past, but I still hit on those. Just good practice, because I'm installing Linux or something else. It'd be good to hit along the memory lines. Now the CPU, let's increase the speed. Let's give it 2 processors because we've got 16 cores in these. So that'll help us out. And I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And before I add another device, I'm going to check my hard disk. So I don't know if you've got File Explorer pinned down there. Do y'all have File Explorer? Go ahead and launch your File Explorer and check your C drive. I'm going to pick on one of you to show your screen over here. So on C drive, everybody will have an ISO folder, ISO. Expand out this PC, click on C drive, go ahead and double click the ISO folder. Look inside of there, and I don't see a Windows 2019 installer disk in there. I'm not sure what somebody's else has done. They put some interesting stuff in there. So, but that's definitely not. I'm just trying to think what all of that is. Some of y'all don't. Does everybody have these folders? Just a few. Yeah, somebody did some weird stuff last semester and dumped some stuff. We're just looking for large 5 gig files in there. So go ahead and go back into your ISO folder. So you didn't have it. Let me check if anybody has it. So here, yeah, go up, Pedro, open that, open your, yeah, click there on this PC, go into your C drive, double click your, do you not have an ISO folder? Really? Okay, well, right click down there in the white area, down a little bit down further in the white spot, right click, and just go new folder. And make it all caps, ISO. And hit enter. Now you got one. Now if you open it, I bet it's empty. You definitely don't have anything in yours. Okay. Alexis, did you have anything in yours? You had some stuff in there. You had 3 things. So you had a Windows 10, Gandalf, Kali, so we don't have our server. So what you're going to have to do is on your web browser in Canvas in week 2, under resources, there is a link to download Windows Server 2019. The file name is ginormous to explain everything to Microsoft, you know, what it is, what edition. Go ahead and click on that and download it. And it will put it into your downloads folder. Guess what? I want you to cut and paste it into that ISO folder once it's finished downloading. So this is week 2, not week 1. And it should download fairly quickly. Find it there, Pedro? It'd be in Canvas under the week 2 in Canvas. Are you rickrolling yourself?
I'll wait for you to put it up there. Oh, man.
You gonna try to rickroll and I'll show your screen?
What, do you have like a window view of everybody's?
Yes.
This is everything.
Oh.
She sees everything. Come
Yeah.
on, bro. We're in land.
I've warned people not to cheat and they always try to cheat. I'm like, I've showed y'all this before. I can watch you. I can also turn my head and look at you and see you pull your phone out and look up the answers on your phone. And then after you find the answer on your phone, click, you go up and click. I can watch that. I'm like, even watch people remotely thinking they were safe at their house, cheating on my exams. Like, no, doesn't work.
So you say go to week 1 and week 2.
Week 2. And then it's the big long link. First link under ISOs. It should be about 5 gigabytes. So how big is the file? It's, well, I can't see the bottom of your screen.
Have you ever caught someone on something that they're not supposed to be on?
What?
Have you ever caught someone like on something that they're not supposed to be on?
Like games? Yeah.
Yeah.
We've not had expel students since around 2004 for Title IX violations,
2004.
something like that. Yeah, they would be looking up that's sexual harassment. So the student got caught, got kicked out of class, and then he came up and brought his parents up here and apologized in front of the class, in front of his parents. So we let him back in. He lasted 1 more class. I'm like, dude, you need to have some counseling if you can't wait to go to the library or somewhere else. So
Yeah, I guess I just opened.
That's-
I opened
there's I don't know, 2002 to 2004, so I kicked out like 5 people.
I was 14.
So I don't, it was a bad time back then. I don't know. Okay, and then once it's downloaded, so once it's downloaded, go to your downloads folder, right click on it, cut it, and then go to ISO folder and right click and paste it inside of the ISO folder. And as far as the installs and stuff, this is an install of a 2016 server here. I've got videos in the second week. So if you do miss, you can watch these videos, and there's 2019 and 2016 is really just the number at the end as far as installation and configuration goes. So, and if you want to replicate this at your house, you have a computer with 16 gig of RAM, or it'd be kind of hard to do them with 16 gig of RAM. But you could probably get by with 16 gig of RAM and do all of our lab stuff. But because you could actually run them around, you could bump them down to 3072, 3 gig each, or 2048, or just get 24 gig of RAM, 32 gig of RAM in your system. I got to do this for school. Need that much memory. So, okay. Once you got that downloaded, and once you got it moved over to the ISO folder, we come back to the settings of our virtual machine that we created. So out of 64 gig that this machine has in it, I'm allocating 4 gigabytes. I'm allocating 2 of the processor cores. And I've also we allocated when we set this up, 60 gigabytes of hard disk space. So it's going to encapsulate into a file and pretend to be a hard disk file. And so I'm going to click this SCSI controller right here. And that's going to allow me to install a DVD drive. Those ISO images are basically DVD, Blu-ray, CD format. So optical media. So I'm going to click this DVD drive and click add. The DVD drive will be added into your system. Don't have to worry about opening the case and getting your fingers cut on the sharp edges. It's all electronic now. And we'll click on image file with the radio button. And hey Joe, do you right click and go to settings on your AA machine? That's what we're doing is our AA machine. Right click in settings of it.
I already downloaded it and I was trying to move it, I guess. Not move.
I think you've opened, I think this is what somebody's done is they opened a CD and extracted. I think that's what happened to yours. Somebody opened a CD-ROM and then extracted all of the junk. That's what it looks like happened. So you double clicked it. No, you can't. I'll take control. Yeah. Close that. Where are we at? So you right click and cut.
Oh,
There we go. Now it's pasted.
okay, I see what it is. Okay. That's what I saw.
Oh, I'm taking over. Don't move your mouse. Okay, so yeah, all of this junk here, somebody got a disk and just extracted it. So we're going to get rid of that. Because it shouldn't look like that. Now I know what students have done. They've opened up an ISO and then extracted it to the, no. There we go. Cut. Paste. That's the way it should look. You just have those folders in there. So if you've got anything else, let me know and I'll clean it up. Let me get off your screen so you can use your mouse. Okay, now you can take it over. You have control back. Okay, so the settings of this, I click on image file, click browse. I'm just going to browse to the ISO folder and click the 2019 C drive ISO in the SW DVD9 one that you got. Yeah, ISO folder you created. And
It must have been not supposed to pull it out, you know.
hit virtual hard, hit cancel. You're in the wrong spot. Hit cancel on that. So you click the SCSI controller. SCSI is pronounced SCSI. Click the DVD drive, click add. Now click image. Now click browse. Now go to C in ISO and it'll show up. There it is. Okay.
Second day, I'm already.
So hard disk are VHDX files, virtual hard disk, and then X is just new generation virtual hard disk configuration. Most time X stands for the word configuration if you ever see it in there. And then ISO images, ISOs, file extensions can only be applied to DVDs. So if you accidentally got on the wrong one, you weren't seeing the file because it was looking for VHDX and was hiding anything else. And that's why. So if you don't see what you're looking for, maybe you need to cancel back out and look, am I clicked on the right thing? Everybody find it? Anybody else need help? Got it? Okay, cool. So we got 2 CPUs, we fixed our memory, we installed the disk. We'll go ahead and click OK. And like I said, once we learn some of this stuff, you can create your own virtual machines and stuff to play with. Just clean them up after you're done playing with them. We're going to go and right click and connect to our virtual machine we created. And it'll pop up. And I'm not going to start it just yet because Microsoft codes the bootloader on their installation media to require the space bar to be hit for it to actually boot. Otherwise, it's going to give a 2-second timeout and try to boot from the hard disk. We just created this virtual machine. If you just like you went and got a blank hard drive from off the shelf at Walmart and put it into the computer, there's nothing on it. It's not going to boot. So if we're not careful and be fairly quick with hitting the space bar after we click start, just like slowly tap it about, give it a second count, 1, 2, 3, and just keep tapping until it starts to start up. You'll miss it. So I'm going to kind of click start and click one more time when it gets to a black screen, just make sure my keyboard is in there. I got to make sure I don't move my mouse outside the window, that I keep it inside of there, which is not too hard because you're clicking start. So if I click start and click the mouse one more time, then I'll start tapping the space bar. So start, and then I start tapping the space bar. Y'all can try it. I'll reset mine because it should have. I know it's wrong. It's not working. The black square is turn off. Go and click the black square. Go and accept the warning. So to go back to this screen, we can get to the settings from the file menu. You could also go back, right click. You can only modify the settings. Some of the settings can only be modified when it's off. So let's go back to settings. Let's look at the boot order. Click here at the boot order. It's trying to boot from the network. So we could probably sit there and wait until it timed out on the network. Or we could come down here to the DVD drive and we could move it up to the top until, hey, boot from there. And probably move the hard drive to second. No point in trying to boot from the network. We don't have a boot server on the network to provide resources to that. So just rearrange the order: CD-ROM, DVD, hard disk, then the network adapter.
And then another page popped up on the bottom. Says virtual machine boot summary. Start now. I don't know what that is. Pop up.
Interesting. I don't know. Just hit OK on your settings. I think it's still trying to boot. So you can either hit the start, and Pedro, there's the play button up there. We'll reset it. See the play button? Yeah, just click that. Click reset, and then hit space bar. There we go. So I click start. Oh no, where did it go? Space bar. I caught it. Cool. If you don't catch it, the little play button up here will reset, let you catch it again, and you'll get to the startup screen. Looks like everybody made it. Boots really fast. There's no posts, so you gotta be really quick with virtual machines. Okay, so as in any Windows installer, have you seen something like this before? Have you installed a Windows 10 and like hardware software?
No, I don't think it was in hardware software, but I've installed something like this in a different place. Or I have.
Okay. It's fairly easy. Ask you the language. We defaulted to US, so make sure it didn't default to something else, and nothing else we can really do here but hit next. There's two things we can do on the next screen. We could run a repair against our system. So that's neat to know that that's right there. If your system's completely won't boot at all, the repair can give you some repair options where you can drop to a command prompt or have Windows try to scan for an issue. There's nothing to repair. There's nothing on the drive, so we just install. Unless you've got a really fancy computer at the house, it's going to go a lot faster than what you've probably done in the past.
Have a laptop.
No.
HP Pavilion.
It just kind of depends on what type of hard drive's in it. If you've got an NVMe drive or not. These have some of the fastest drives you could get in them. We got 4 options. We can install 2019 standard, and we can install one with the desktop experience. It defaults to the standard. It has no graphical user interface. You don't want that probably for learning for the first time. We will deploy one out and see what it looks like and get used to it. But we're going to deploy one with a graphical interface. There's not a lot of difference between standard and data center other than the license for Hyper-V, like how many virtual machines can you run and automatically activate. Standard, you can activate 2 versions of server of 2019 or older automatically. You have to put in a key, but you just look at it online. It's not a key you pay for. Data center, you can run an unlimited number of Windows servers and it'll automatically activate them without purchasing any more keys. Of course, to get data center on the actual hardware, the bare metal, the host system, you have to pay about 3 times as much for the key. We're going to pick standard because we're creating a virtual machine, and you're not going to create virtual machines inside of a virtual machine. You're not going to nest and do something crazy like that. So there's no point in picking data center because we don't need the extra license. So we'll just go ahead and click standard and go next. License agreement. It'd be longer if you didn't have an enterprise ISO image. So we'll go next. Now this always confuses people. Are you going to upgrade the operating system that's on the hard drive? We're going to do a custom install. What do you think? This is some critical thinking right here. Am I going to upgrade an existing operating system that's on the hard disk already, or am I going to do a custom install? Why would I do a custom? Because the hard drive's blank. We just created it brand new. There's nothing there, so there's nothing to upgrade. And as far as servers go, we're probably never going to get into a situation, well, not never. 99% of the time, and all best practices, don't ever upgrade a server. Install a fresh one, and then migrate any data or settings and applications, and then shut the old server down. Don't upgrade the server. Installing from scratch, you get all of the new security features and files and stuff. If you upgrade a system, there can be registry hacks and settings that have been tweaked throughout the years that are going to be migrated across that could cause security issues. It's a major security risk to upgrade a system. So always start fresh. So we'll do a custom install. We'll click it. We're not going to do any customization on the partitioning. We'll just let it auto do the entire drive. And we're going to go ahead and next. So very few questions. One of the most hardest questions is, should I upgrade or should I do a custom? Almost always the correct choice should probably be custom. And then it takes off and we run through the installer. So how long has it taken you to install Windows before? You remember how many minutes? It's like, no. I've seen it take 30, 45 minutes before to install Windows. It's when you had your spinning plattered hard disk. When you get rid of the mechanical slowness, and you go to an NVMe interface that's just 3,500 megabits instead of 600 megabytes per second. Cut the install speed way down. I guess you've heard about Windows 11. Probably coming around October, November timeframe. And we're just looking up the requirements. It'll take an 8th generation or higher Intel chip. An 8th gen was released not too terribly long ago. So it's gonna cause a massive need to upgrade computers. So these systems come in this year and they're 10th gen. I think they already have 11th gen out. So we have to have a complex password for it to accept for this. It means a complex password, meaning that you need to have uppercase, lowercase, and either numbers or symbols. You have to have 3 of the 4 different keyboard characters that you can type in, which is uppercase characters, lowercase characters, numbers, and symbols. So pass1234 is a really complex password. It's got an uppercase, a lowercase, curse word, and then or a donkey, and then numbers. Super secure. Isn't this super secure? It's in every crack dictionary there is. So we're going to use pass1234. This because Windows will accept it. It's easy to type in. Don't ever use that for production networks. Only lab purposes, and that's why we're not connected to the network with these. It's internal networking. Some of you asked, size-wise, interesting. Take control of your system again, check something out. So yours asked, that's why I did that. I don't want them doing that. Let's redo that. There we go. We'll use that later on. Who else has asked the size? Yours did. Okay, where's your Hyper-V window? So we'll talk about that mode later. There we go. Now it doesn't ask. Now it won't be so confusing. We'll have to switch to that mode. Allows you to copy and paste files back and forth between the host operating system and inside the virtual machine. But for now, I just want them in this. The Control-Alt-Delete, if you try to use Control-Alt-Delete on your keyboard to enter it in, it's going to send it to your host system, and it's going to be like asking you to change your password of your student account. So the three little keys up here by the file menu is what you use instead of having to hit the keyboard. So click with your mouse and it'll bring up the login prompt. And you just put the password in, so, uh-oh. There we go. So that was quick. It's 9:46 a.m. Y'all are early. Why is that? Why is it so early? We also note Server Manager comes up. So with Server 2012 R2 edition, the second release of 2012 server, through 2016 server, through 2019 server, and I've not seen 2022 server yet, but they're working on it. You use Server Manager and the right click of the Start menu. This is, I said, on Tuesday to manage the system. The Server Manager is an all-in-one thing, and they've got it to where Server Manager has links for you to be able to configure the system. In the past, you used to have to sit there and answer 15 questions during the install, like computer name, IP addressing, and everything, time zone, keyboard layout, everything during the installation. They've stopped doing that. And they just let the installation run through. You've got to answer the first few questions, and then you don't have to just sit there. It would have worked a whole lot better back in the past when it took hours and you had to sit there for an hour answering questions every 5 minutes. And not being, of course, you could make some you can make some scripts to auto answer things for you, but still. Now it's easier. You can walk away and come back and you got a desktop, and then you can configure. You configure everything with local server using Server Manager. These are hyperlinks to the different places in Windows where you would normally go to make these changes. So one of them is time zone. Let's see it over here now and understand why it's 9 o'clock. So I can just click the hyperlink and it'll bring the tool up instead of me having to go down, right click the clock and find it. It's just hyperlinked right there. So I can change the time zone to US and Canada and click OK. And now the time matches my host time. That's pretty cool. Since these don't have access to the internet, they don't have access to internet time, it syncs with the host operating system's time. Now this page refreshes every few minutes or so. So once you've made the change, you won't see it take effect. This is kind of like a web page. It probably is rendered as a web page. So you can click the refresh button and think of this as Server Manager is kind of like a web browser. So clicking the refresh button will refresh it and you'll see that it changed the central time off of Pacific time. So pretty cool. So you have installed a server. What? Now we're about to get complicated on the thing. So the goal now is to show you what you can do for lab environments. You can create a server, and especially if you want to play with multiple of them and link them together, you can create something that you can clone off of. You worked with VirtualBox, they called it cloning, linked clone. Microsoft is a lot more complicated. Even VMware has cloning, but Microsoft is really complicated. They call it a differencing disk, and there's a whole lot of steps that you got to do. But we're going to do that. We're going to set this up, and then we're going to prep it for cloning, which is something else really important, because if you clone something, if you got an exact clone, there's some registry numbers that will make the two machines appear identical on the network, and they're going to conflict and not be able to work correctly, especially servers. So we're going to look at a tool that you can prep it for cloning, either because you're cloning it out to 100 new PCs, or because you're using virtualization, you're needing to clone several different copies of it and play with it. So let's prep this one as much as possible. The more that you can prep it, the less the clone will take up on your actual hard disk. So this is not something you would do in production. This is something that you would do at home or in a desktop computer that you're researching and playing with stuff before that you go try to do it on the production system. So we can create several servers and take up a lot less disk space than actually installing these servers. This installs probably, I don't know how big it is. Let's check out how big is this file. So these files end up in the VM folder on your host computer's C drive. So I did not click inside the virtual machine. I went down to my host taskbar. It makes it really confusing because there's two manila folders here. You can get confused really quick. So I'm looking at my host computer, the bottom one down here, my actual C drive where the ISO folders and everything are at. So I'm looking inside a VM. I'm looking at this. It's 9.9 gig that we just installed. So it's 10 billion bytes. But if you divide it by 1024, it's 9.94 gigabytes. Hard drive manufacturers like, here's a terabyte. And then you put it in your computer and it's 897 gig. Wait, where's my other 100 gig there? It's because they rounded by 1,000 instead of 1024. So they got you. LAN 2 is already deployed out. You might spot if the LAN 2 person is sitting in your chair, or you can look up here if they're not. There's a 2019 RO, very similar to what we just did. It's 10.6 gig, and they created two servers off of it, and their two servers are only 3.7 gig each. Otherwise, I would have had, 22 gig if we installed directly. So save some space. So our goal is we're prepping this as an image. I want to get everything on here. That'll be kind of cool for us to do. Let's go up to manage. And something cool Microsoft does now that they didn't do in the 90s and early 2000s. You used to install a server and it would install almost everything with it. All the services would also just be installed during installation, and they would be turned on, and there was no firewall. So they were just open to everybody. And they would give the anonymous user, meaning anybody, even if you didn't have the login rights to the thing, rights to everything. And it was a nightmare. Try to get the thing so that it wasn't just wide open and everybody just took over your system. Now they've done it completely different. Everything's locked down and the roles and stuff, services are not installed. So this system right here basically can't really do anything. It can't serve clients because there's all of the services that would connect to the Windows 10 machine, Mac or whatever would connect and need services off of this. They are still compressed. They're on the hard drive, they're just compressed and not running. So we're going to go to manage and we're going to click on add role and features. So adding roles and features will let us choose what is this server going to be doing. It's not going to be doing everything. Like Microsoft thought they were just going to use one computer to do everything in the past. No. Let's go next. We're going to be role-based. Probably 99% of the time, what you would always select role-based. As we go next, since it is client server operated, this server manager can actually see all the servers in your company, and you'd have to pick on one. You can even install Server Manager on a Windows 10 machine and not have to be on a server. That's why they deploy them out with core command prompt only. So you can connect from your Windows 10 and not have to go and sit in the server room. Okay, we'll go next. These two are going to be Active Directory domain controllers. So if you read through here, you see Active Directory domain services is the second one. I'm going to click a check and it's going to say, hey, there's a bunch of tools to manage this service. Would you like to install it too? Sure. Add features. So features are basically tools to manage something on the system, and roles are things that run in the background that clients connect to remotely, like the logging into the system. When you control delete and log into these with your email address and password and you got to your desktop, that's Active Directory domain services running on the data center in State Hall. DNS is required. And I'm going to go click add feature on it too. When I click DNS server, it's required with domain services. So I might as well at this point in time check it. If I didn't, and I run the wizard to configure domain services, it would install it. So to put the cart in front of the horse, I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Have it there and ready anyway, pre-prepped. Now that's all the services I'm going to pick. Actually, the domain services requires DNS to operate. And if you ever deploy out systems like this, they shouldn't run anything else. This is your most important servers, probably of your entire network. This is the user account database, usernames and passwords. Anything else put on here is another piece of software that might have some flaws in it that a hacker could breach. If they can breach one of these other services because you installed it on here, guess what? They've got access to everything on the hard drive, which includes all of your user accounts and passwords for the entire company. So these domain controllers only run these two services and nothing else. Here on campus, we're following our best practice and we're deploying them out core only. They don't have a graphical desktop. They have only the command prompt, and those features aren't being installed. Because guess what? The DNS manager, we just installed the little graphical tool that can let us control the DNS service. There's been several flaws in the past where hackers have been able to break the tool that manages DNS and then take over the servers. So any of the feature sets that we just approved to install into these could be that it's extra pieces of code. Some of you are encoding. You know you can make mistakes. The less programs you put on the server, the less code that somebody can hack and actually infect the server itself. So that's why core is recommended. You're only running just those services, and then the management tools are running on the Windows machine, Windows 10 machine somewhere else, and then remotely connecting. It helps keep the kernel, the core of the operating system, from being exploited. Okay, we'll go next. Lots of security stuff. We could add some more stuff in here. We're not, are we? No. We'll put out a Windows 10. I'll show you maybe how we can get this on the Windows 10 machine if we need to do anything else. So go ahead and go next, and next, and next, and install. And your brain hurts?
I was in popular class and he was showing me Java and Eclipse.
We'll play with what said. We're going to deploy out a core server, and we'll probably actually use PowerShell, and we'll actually use Server Manager to remotely deploy out some more services on it. Even in LAN 2, we'll do some more of that in LAN 2. So you'll see it and do it again. I'll have lots of chances. LAN 2, you redeploy all of this again. Okay, well, that's installed. I'm going to go close. That was nice and quick. I'm going to go ahead and close Server Manager out. I guess there's one more thing that we could put on here to be ready for the semester. A couple of weeks down the line, maybe next week, we'll be doing some PowerShell stuff. There is a tool on here that you can use to run and write PowerShell scripts. But most admins are now using the editor that Microsoft put out that used to be for Visual Studio. And they put an editor out and they called it Visual Studio Code. And it's a free editor that recognizes a bunch of different coding languages. So let's search for Visual Studio Code. And it has a download link right there. We're going to go and download the latest version of it. So click download, and I guess click the top 64-bit user installer under Windows. It should be about 70 gig when it downloads. Is that right? 74 megabytes, not gigabytes, megabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not running it on the host machine, we're putting it in our server. So yes, it's already on these machines, but now we're downloading it to our downloads folder. And then we're going to download one other thing. We're going to download a PowerShell extension. Those servers do not have internet access. So we got to download it and copy the file over into them.
Yes.
What's it say? No. Are you trying to install it? No, cancel that. All we needed is be downloaded because we're going to copy and paste it. So as long as it's downloaded, you're good. Next thing, after you got them downloaded, you can leave them in your downloads folder. We're going to search Google again for Visual. No, let's do a PowerShell V6 download. And it looks like I've clicked on the second link here, the PowerShell 2021.8 V6 free file download. So yeah, click on that one. And I think I went to the marketplace. Yep. It says get it on the Visual Studio Marketplace. It's actually Microsoft's controlled website. I feel a little bit safer downloading something off of their site. So when you click here, if you scroll to the top of the screen, we see an install, but we don't want to do that. We want to, somebody's on the wrong. Okay. I'm right here. Whoops. I don't have that other thing loaded. Hold on, I got this cool tool. That tool, cool. Yeah, there we go. We click that link right there. Isn't that cool? That way you can't get lost. There we go. So on this page, this will also help on this page. This page, you're like, where do I download it from? Because that says install, and no, you have to go down to right there and click download extension. I even change colors on my drawing. It's great. And it'll download, it'll be a pretty small file. Should be really quick. Everybody get it?
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
Okay. So to get it into the servers, we're going to go to our desktop here. The one that we were just messing with. And I am actually going to go into that enhanced session mode. Some of you, when you started it, it asked you to screen resolution. So we all need to convert it over to that. So this little icon right here, if it says enhanced session mode, when you hover your mouse over it, that means it will, when you click it, it will move into enhanced session mode, which will give copy and paste rights. Copy and paste from hard drive into the virtual machine. So as I click it, it asks me for size, and I'm just going to go ahead and click connect, and I'll relog back in. Uses a remote desktop protocol to make that connection. And you can know that you're in the correct mode by hovering your mouse over that last icon, and this time it'll say basic. So if it says basic, you're good. But if you hover it over and it says enhanced, that means you would need to click it. So that icon right there. So Pedro, go and click that because yours said enhance. So click it and then click connect. Yours is grayed out. Why are you being difficult? Let me see. Open your Hyper-V Manager window. Maybe I unchecked the wrong one. So that should be unchecked. That one should be checked. So we can use it when we want to, but not forced upon us. So now close that. Now it's got it. That's what the problem was. Little interesting settings like that. Terrible for people that haven't new to something and like, where is it? Okay, go to your downloads folder and find the V6 file. And you can go ahead and copy it, and you should be able to paste it onto the desktop. And you should also find the Visual Studio Code installer, which I thought I had downloaded, but apparently it don't. Okay, there we go. Now I've got it. Copy that one too. And then right click and paste it. And it should put it inside the server. Did that work for you? Pretty cool. Man, they're missing a lot. You don't want to miss this class. It's internet assisted, so all our lab stuff is in class, and all our test out and watching the videos is outside of class. Okay, let's go ahead and install it. Just double click it on the desktop and run through the installer. Pedro, you got it? Close your server manager out. Oh, that's the wrong X. Yeah. So you closed out the machine instead of.
Yeah, when I logged in, it seemed to
Oh. You did the past one? Yeah, okay. So you hit the virtual machine instead of this down here. That's easy to do.
Okay.
Super easy to do. So yeah, what you got to do, you downloaded. Just go to copy both of those, and then you just paste.
Okay, I didn't even see that.
Okay. Now we're just double clicking. Let me get off your screen. Hold on. Don't move anything. Okay. Now we're just double clicking and then running through the installer. Let's see. Accepting the license agreement. Next. 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 I'm going to check everything but the create a desktop icon. I think that's the only thing I'm changing. Everything else should be install. We'll go ahead and launch it. Once it launches, it normally automatically tries to download and install plugins and stuff off the internet, but we have no internet inside these machines. So to install that plugin for PowerShell, we click the Tetris block. That's what I call it. That brings out a little slide out. And at the top of the slide out, there's an ellipse. An ellipse is 3 dots. If you didn't know what the little 3 dots was called, it's called an ellipse. And you click on the little 3 dots and it brings down a menu. And we downloaded a V6 file. If I see anything here to install a V6 file, look at the bottom option there. Install from V6. So click on it. It'll let you browse. It should be on the desktop. Just highlight, click install. Little little doodle blue bar runs across the top of that slide out, and then it should pop and say PowerShell. Nifty. So looks like everybody's got PowerShell, I think. Uh-oh. Did you see what we did? There it is. It just took yours a sec. Oh, okay. Everybody's got it. Just close it down now. One last step. I'm gonna go, you can stay. It was just too big to show on the screen. I shrunk mine back down. Okay. So you can see this better. What I'm doing next is I'm going to prep this for cloning. I install the roles and everything. I'm going to originally want to end up with 2 domain controllers. It's best practice to always have 2 domain controllers, because if this is the most important thing, it has every single user account and password and all the computer machine accounts and stuff for your entire company. You don't want a single point of failure. So always deploy out 2 in tandem. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to clone this twice and make 2 servers so that they load balance and mirror each other. And it also helps with Windows patches. You know, Windows puts out patches. If you've not ever heard of that before. So you can patch one of them, restart, get it up and running, and then you can do it on the second one. That way your clients are always have a connection to at least one of the systems. A lot of reasons to have 2 or more systems. So that's our main goal, and that's why we want to prep these for cloning. And we can't just shut it down. We actually have to run a special tool to rip a security identifier, something that's called a global unique identifier, out of the registry. It uniquely identifies each machine as a separate instance. If that's not done and we clone, both clones will have that same ID and they'll see each other and like, nope, we're not going to work. It's like, we can't be on the same network. It's like, no, I'm not going to participate. I'm going to sit in the corner. Antisocial. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these 2 files. I don't need them anymore. I did shift delete. I don't know if you knew that. Shift delete bypasses the recycle bin. If it popped in the recycle bin, you have to right click and empty the recycle bin. But shift delete, after you got them highlighted, says you were shredding these. They're gone. So that's pretty neat. So we can do this right before we got to leave for lunch. Go and open up the File Explorer window, File Manager. Just make sure that it is inside the virtual machine. So if I try to drag this outside the edge, it doesn't. It just starts disappearing. If I get the wrong one and I'm dragging it around and it's like, yeah, it's going, I don't want to do that one. That's bad. I've had students, they'll Sysprep their whole system. It's not the end of the world if you do it. It's just a whole lot better if you get the right one. So we're inside of this. I'm going to go ahead and eject this disk just because I can. Eject the CD. Okay. I'm going to open up this PC. I'm going to go down here to C drive. I'm going to go and open up the Windows folder. And in the Windows folder, I need to get to the S's. So I'm going to hit S on the keyboard. I'm just going to highlight one of these folders at the top and hit tap S. You may not have never known that. That's awesome. When you got thousands of files to scroll through, jump straight to the S's. I'm finding System 32. And I'm opening up System 32. Inside of System 32, I'll click on one of these files. I need to get to the S's again. So I'm going to type in the letter S and it'll jump me down to the S's. And now if I scroll a little bit, I'm looking for Sysprep, system prep. It's going to prep the system for cloning. So if I open up that folder, there will be a executable called Sysprep inside. This is the tool that is used for if you're going to clone hard drive to hard drive, or if you're going to do a virtual machine type clone. Why can't I see? I was trying to see. Oh, that was my, why can't I bring up? There we go. You found Sysprep. You did a search for it. That works too. So with it running, let me go back to mine. If you double click on it, click generalize and click shut down. The generalize is what rips out the security ID. Shutdown, make sure it doesn't try to start up again, because as soon as the instant it tries to start, as soon as the bootloader starts to load, the bootloader writes the registry key, that global unique identifier. So the machine has to shut down and never boot again, so you can clone off of it. So generalize and shut down. That's the two things you have to change with this for cloning, and hit OK. And it'll generalize and shut the system down. The only time that you wouldn't generalize is if you're at your home computer and you want to take your hard drive out and put it into a brand new machine. You're going from an i7 4th generation to an i7 10 gen, and the motherboard and stuff's all new. You could sysprep it without generalizing, take your hard drive out, put it in the new machine, boot it up, and that basically removes all of the driver settings. So when you put it in the new machine, it'll reload and rescan for the new motherboard drivers and stuff. If you don't do that, Windows normally tries to keep loading the old drivers in the new machine, and it just corrupts everything. Okay, you got to close this window. Make sure you don't start it. Close the window. Mine shut down. Did everybody shut down? Yeah, go and hit exit on your, yeah, exit. So it says off, right? Everybody says off on your AA, right up beside it. Okay, got it highlighted. Hit delete.
Okay, I see it.
Hit delete and delete it. You're like, what? We got to the end of class. Why don't we, yeah, close it, Pedro. Hit delete on the keyboard. Or delete there, yeah. And then click delete. That will prevent it from accidentally being started by another class. But it doesn't get rid of what we just did, because it's still everything we just installed is still there on the hard disk. You just removed it from somebody being able to start it. So that is next week. We'll do some clones off of it. So that was a lot.
Yeah, it was.
This is recorded.